In the heart of a merciless winter storm, when the world falls silent under the weight of darkness, Daniel hears it. A sound so faint, yet so desperate it cuts through the howling wind like a prayer. A cry that seems to reach not just his ears, but something deeper within him. The rain beats against his windows like angry fists as he steps outside, flashlight trembling in his grip. What compels a man to abandon shelter on such a night? Perhaps the same instinct that makes us human, the inability to ignore suffering when we hear its call. Following the haunting sound, Daniel navigates through sheets of rain, his heart pounding with each step. The beam of light finally reveals a sight that stops him cold, a tiny bundle of wet fur, nearly motionless beside a rust-stained dumpster. Not the stray dog he expected, but a cat, so small and fragile it barely seems real. Soaked to the bone, its once sleek fur now matted and filthy, the creature's eyes tell a story of abandonment and pain that words could never capture. Each labored breath seems like it might be its last, a flickering flame of life, moments from being extinguished by the storm's cruel hand. Daniel kneels in the puddles, his own discomfort forgotten as he reaches out with trembling fingers. The cat doesn't run, cannot run, but something in its gaze shifts from fear to something more profound. A connection forms in that moment, silent yet undeniable, between two souls meeting at the crossroads of desperation and hope. As he gently lifts the fragile creature, cradling it against his chest, Daniel doesn't yet know that this chance encounter on this storm-ravaged night isn't just about saving a life. It's about how that life will save his own in ways he could never imagine. A life on the line. What Daniel carries in his trembling hands is not just a cat, but a fragile thread of existence hanging by the slimmest of margins. Standing there in the unforgiving rain, time seems suspended as doubt floods his mind like the storm waters pooling at his feet. He's never known the responsibility of caring for another life. His apartment, sparse and silent, has never heard the patter of paws or felt the warmth of a companion's presence. His days, meticulously scheduled between work and solitude, have no space for unexpected chaos. What does he know about saving something so delicate, so close to slipping away into the darkness? But as the tiny creature's eyes meet his, pools of fading light fighting against the encroaching shadow, something ancient and undeniable stirs within him. Some decisions transcend logic. Some moments define who we truly are when the world isn't watching. With a decisive movement that surprises even himself, Daniel lifts the soaked ball of fur against his chest, shielding her from the battering rain with his own body. His coat becomes a makeshift sanctuary as he cradles his unexpected charge, running through sheets of water as if outpacing death itself. Back in his apartment, the harsh reality becomes clear under the unforgiving kitchen lights. What looked fragile in the darkness appears nearly broken in the light, ribs visible beneath matted fur, eyes glazed with exhaustion, each breath a labored victory against overwhelming odds. The bowl of hastily prepared food sits untouched as the cat lies motionless on the towel he's laid out. Too weak to eat, too tired to fight, her tiny body seems to be surrendering what little strength remains. As midnight stretches toward dawn, Daniel sits beside her, whispering promises he never thought he'd make to anyone. In the quiet space between heartbeats, he realizes that two lives hang in the balance tonight, hers, and something long dormant within himself that has suddenly, unexpectedly, awakened. As darkness claims the night, Daniel's apartment transforms into an unexpected battlefield. The stakes. A tiny heart fighting to keep beating against impossible odds. The soft glow of his laptop illuminates his exhausted face as he frantically searches for answers in a world he's never needed to understand before. How to save a dying cat, he types with trembling fingers, each article more daunting than the last. Through the longest hours of the night, he becomes a reluctant medic, creating a makeshift heating pad from a water bottle wrapped in towels, attempting to coax droplets of water between parched lips with a medicine dropper, his own heartbeat seemingly synchronized with each shallow breath from his fragile ward. Sleep becomes a forgotten luxury as minutes stretch into hours, each one a precious victory in this silent war against time. When dawn finally breaks through his blinds, the cat's condition remains perilously balanced on the knife edge between life and death. Cradling her limp form against his chest, Daniel races through morning traffic, each red light an eternity, each bump in the road a silent apology whispered to the barely conscious creature in his arms. The veterinary clinic's fluorescent lights reveal what the night had mercifully hidden, the true extent of her suffering. The vet's face, professionally composed yet unable to mask the gravity of her assessment, tells Daniel what words soon confirm: severe malnourishment, dehydration, and a leg broken in 2 places. But it's what the vet says next that sends ice through his veins. "I need to be honest with you," she says, her voice gentle yet unflinching. "Her condition is critical. The next 24 hours will determine everything." As Daniel watches the tiny cat disappear behind swinging doors, connected to tubes and monitors that seem grotesquely oversized against her diminished form, an unexpected realization washes over him. This creature, nameless, abandoned, and fighting with everything she has awakened something within him that he thought long extinguished. The capacity to care so deeply that his own survival suddenly seems intertwined with hers. What is it that transforms a stranger into a guardian, a reluctant rescuer into a devoted caretaker? For Daniel, it begins with a quiet promise whispered to a creature hovering between worlds, a vow that echoes through his apartment as he carries Luna home, her tiny body still uncertain if it should fight or surrender. The vet's instructions become his sacred text, his days measured not in hours, but in small, desperate victories. Each drop of nutrient-rich formula that passes through the syringe into Luna's unwilling mouth, each gentle cleaning of wounds too painful to touch, each careful adjustment of the splint on her broken leg. Time loses meaning as Daniel's world shrinks to the size of the cardboard box lined with soft blankets where Luna lies, her breaths shallow but persistent. At first, her eyes, now named for the moonlight that had revealed them on that fateful night, regard him with suspicion and fear. When he approaches, she attempts to retreat despite her weakness, a creature who has learned that human hands bring pain more often than comfort. Her distrust is a wall between them, built brick by brick through experiences Daniel can only imagine. But walls can crumble, given enough time and patience. The moment comes unexpectedly. Daniel wakes from an exhausted slumber beside Luna's makeshift bed to find her tiny face turned toward him, studying him not with fear, but with something new: curiosity. That first tentative glance becomes a bridge across the chasm of distrust. Days blend into weeks as Luna's strength grows. The first time she takes food willingly from his hand, Daniel feels a surge of triumph greater than any achievement in his carefully constructed life. The first time she purrs, a sound so faint he wonders if he's imagined it, tears spring to his eyes unbidden. As Luna's broken body mends, something within Daniel heals too. Each night, as she curls trustingly against his palm, her warmth seeps into places within him that have been cold for too long. Two souls rescued from different kinds of darkness, finding in each other an unexpected light neither knew they were seeking. What begins as healing transforms into something far more profound, a metamorphosis witnessed only by the walls of Daniel's once silent apartment. As days melt into weeks, Luna's broken body rebuilds itself, a miracle of resilience unfolding in real time before his watchful eyes. The first time Luna stands without trembling, Daniel feels his heart swell with a pride he's never known. When she takes those initial tentative steps across the living room floor, each wobbly movement feels like a victory against the darkness that nearly claimed her. But it's the moment she first pounces on a crumpled paper ball, eyes wide with rediscovered joy, body arched in perfect feline grace, that Daniel realizes he's witnessing more than recovery. He's watching a spirit reawakening to the simple pleasure of being alive. The transformation is mutual, unfolding in quiet moments that would seem insignificant to anyone else. Luna's sudden appearance whenever Daniel enters a room, the way she tilts her head at the sound of his voice, how she claims the pillow beside his head each night, her purr becoming the soundtrack to his dreams. What begins as caretaking evolves into conversation, Daniel speaking aloud his thoughts to attentive ears, Luna responding with blinks and chirps that somehow feel like perfect answers. With each passing day, the invisible thread connecting them strengthens. Luna's shadow becomes his constant companion, following him from kitchen to bathroom to desk, her presence transforming routine into ritual. When he returns home from work, she waits by the door, greeting him with a melody of welcoming sounds that makes his apartment feel, for the first time, like coming home to something that matters. In the stillness of evening, as Luna kneads contentedly against his chest, Daniel confronts a startling truth. In saving this abandoned creature, he's discovered a purpose that had eluded him throughout his carefully ordered existence. This cat, once a dying stranger in the rain, has awakened something dormant within him. The profound fulfillment that comes from being needed, from mattering to another living soul. Two beings, once lost in different kinds of storms, now finding in each other an unexpected harbor. Miracles often arrive in silence, revealing themselves not in grand gestures, but in the gentle unfolding of ordinary moments. On a sunlit afternoon, as golden light spills across the apartment floor, Daniel watches Luna stretch her once broken leg with perfect, fluid grace. The final evidence of a journey completed, a battle won against overwhelming odds. Where once lay a creature more shadow than substance, now stands a vision of feline splendor. Her coat, once matted and dull, now gleams like polished onyx in the sunlight, her eyes no longer clouded with pain, but clear and bright as the moon she was named for. When she leaps effortlessly to the windowsill, her movements flow with the confidence of a creature fully at home in her own skin, every trace of that storm-battered survivor washed away by time and tender care. In quiet moments, Daniel finds himself marveling at the transformation, not just hers, but his own. His apartment, once a sterile monument to solitude, now bears the joyful evidence of shared life. A basket of toys in the corner, a scratching post by the sofa, two bowls side by side in the kitchen. The carefully constructed walls of his former existence have given way to something messy, unpredictable, and infinitely more alive. As Luna winds herself around his ankles, claiming him with the confidence of absolute belonging, Daniel realizes the shift in their relationship. He is no longer simply her rescuer. That role dissolved somewhere in the countless nights of worry, the celebration of small victories, the gradual building of trust. What they have become to each other transcends the circumstances of their meeting. They are family, bound by something deeper than blood or obligation. Yet sometimes, in the stillness between heartbeats, a shadow thought crosses Daniel's mind. What if he had walked past that dumpster, ignored that faint cry, chosen convenience over compassion on that storm-ravaged night? Two lives, one furry, one human, balanced on the edge of that moment, that choice. As Luna curls contentedly in his lap, her purr vibrating against his chest, Daniel understands with sudden clarity. In saving her, he saved himself from a life half-lived, from the quiet desperation of existing without truly connecting. Sometimes, the most profound beginnings hide in what looks like an ending. 2 winters have passed since that storm-drenched night when fate led Daniel to a dying creature beside a rain-soaked dumpster. The apartment that once echoed with emptiness now resonates with the rhythm of shared lives. Luna's playful chirps answering Daniel's laughter, creating a harmony neither could have imagined in their separate darknesses. The transformation extends beyond their 4 walls. Colleagues remark on the change in Daniel, the unexpected smile that now comes easily to lips once set in permanent concentration, the stories of Luna's antics that have replaced his guarded silence. Friends who were once distant acquaintances now gather in his home, drawn by the warmth that has replaced his careful isolation. A life once measured in solitary achievements now counts its richest moments in connections. On this particular evening, as autumn wind whispers against the windows, something shifts in the apartment's peaceful atmosphere. Luna, normally content to doze beside Daniel as he reads, suddenly sits upright, her body tense as a coiled spring. Her ears swivel forward, her eyes fixed on the door with an intensity that sends a chill across Daniel's skin. "What is it, Luna?" he whispers. But the cat who has shared his every moment for 2 years seems suddenly unreachable, transported to some primal place where human words hold no meaning. When the low growl begins deep in her throat, a sound he's never heard from his gentle companion, Daniel feels the hair rise on his arms. Luna's tail lashes, her body low to the ground as she faces the door like a sentinel confronting an approaching storm. The knock, when it comes, seems to vibrate through the apartment with unnatural force. 3 measured strikes against wood that somehow feel both expected and impossible. In the frozen moment that follows, Daniel watches Luna's reaction with growing unease. She doesn't retreat as she would from an ordinary visitor. Instead, she advances toward the door with deliberate steps, her growl deepening. As Daniel moves slowly toward the unexpected summons, heart thundering against his ribs, he can't shake the unsettling thought that whoever, or whatever, waits on the other side has not come for him, but for Luna. And somehow, impossibly, she has been waiting for this moment all along. Time seems to pause as Daniel opens the door, revealing not the threat his racing heart had anticipated, but a woman whose years have etched deep lines of wisdom across her face. Framed by the hallway light, her small figure appears both fragile and formidable, her eyes, remarkably clear beneath a crown of silver hair, searching Daniel's face with an intensity that momentarily steals his voice. "I'm sorry to disturb you," she says, her voice carrying the gentle tremor of age, yet unwavering in purpose. "My name is Margaret. I've been searching for a very long time." Before Daniel can respond, Luna's behavior transforms with bewildering suddenness. The growl melts into a sound of recognition, not fear, but something eerily close to reverence. She presses against Daniel's legs, her eyes never leaving the visitor, as if witnessing the return of something long lost. "May I come in?" Margaret asks, and though every instinct warns of the strangeness unfolding, Daniel finds himself stepping aside, allowing this unexpected visitor to cross the threshold that separates his carefully constructed present from whatever mystery she carries. At the kitchen table, Margaret's weathered hands unfold a letter, yellowed with age. From within its creases, she extracts a photograph so faded its edges seem to dissolve into memory itself. With trembling fingers, she places it before him. Daniel's breath catches in his throat. Though the image is blurred by time, there's no mistaking the distinctive white crescent mark on the otherwise black cat captured in the photograph, the very same mark that adorns Luna's chest as she sits watching them, unnaturally still. "Impossible," he whispers, the world tilting beneath him. "I stopped believing in impossible long ago," Margaret replies, her eyes now fixed on Luna with a mixture of wonder and confirmed suspicion. "That cat is far older than she appears, and what she did—" Her voice breaks, emotion overwhelming composure. "That cat saved my husband's life when nothing else could, when the doctors had given up, when I had almost given up." As Luna approaches the elderly woman, moving with a dignity Daniel has never witnessed before, Margaret speaks words that shatter reality around them. "And now, I believe, she's come to save you too." In the hushed sanctuary of Daniel's apartment, Margaret's words hang in the air like fragments of a dream, too extraordinary to accept, too specific to dismiss. Luna sits between them, her golden eyes moving from one human to the other, as if understanding every word, every revelation that unspools with Margaret's trembling voice. "My Robert was a firefighter for 30 years, Margaret begins, her fingers absently stroking the photograph. "A man who walked through flames to save strangers, yet it was in our own kitchen where death nearly claimed him." Her eyes mist with memory. "2 years ago, almost to the day before you found her, Robert collapsed, a massive heart attack that should have been the end." Luna's ears prick forward at the mention of Robert's name, a reaction so human in its attentiveness that Daniel feels a chill travel up his spine. The cat who has shared his bed, his secrets, his life now seems suddenly unfamiliar, a mystery wearing familiar fur. "What the doctors couldn't explain," Margaret continues, "was how help arrived so quickly. Our nearest neighbor lived half a mile away. We should have been alone in that moment of crisis." As if sensing her cue in this unbelievable tale, Luna rises and approaches Margaret, pressing her head against the woman's weathered hand with unmistakable tenderness. "It was Luna," Margaret whispers. "She squeezed through the pet door and ran, not away from the tragedy but toward help. She scratched at our neighbor's door with such desperation that he followed her back, curious at first, then horrified at what he found. The paramedics said minutes made the difference between life and death." Daniel watches as Luna moves between them, a bridge connecting past to present, miracle to miracle. The cat he rescued from rain and darkness was never simply a stray. She was a hero temporarily without a home, a guardian angel with whiskers and paws. "After Robert recovered, Luna disappeared," Margaret says, her voice breaking. "We searched everywhere, but it was as if she knew her work with us was finished. And now I understand why." Her eyes meet Daniel's across the table, filled with a knowing that transcends explanation. "Some souls are sent to find those who need them most. I believe Luna found you for a reason." In the lamplit silence of Daniel's apartment, a tapestry of impossible connections weaves itself between 3 souls, one human, one feline, and one carrying the weight of both grief and gratitude. Margaret's revelations continue to unfold like pages from a story too extraordinary to be fiction, yet too precise to be dismissed. "After Robert recovered, Luna was our miracle," Margaret whispers, her voice thick with memory. "For months, she never left his side, sleeping on his chest as if guarding his heartbeat, watching him with those knowing eyes." She pauses, pain flickering across her weathered features. Then last year, when Robert finally succumbed to age and illness, Luna vanished the very night he passed. Not a trace, not a sighting, as if she had been a spirit all along, bound to him in ways we couldn't understand. Daniel's mind races through calculations, connecting invisible dots across time and circumstance. "I found her 2 years ago," he says slowly, the realization dawning like a cold sunrise. "Just days after." He can't finish the sentence, but the truth hangs between them, undeniable in its perfect, terrible symmetry. Luna moves between them now, her presence suddenly charged with meaning beyond her sleek black fur and golden eyes. Each graceful step seems weighted with purpose, each blink conveying ancient wisdom beyond her apparent years. "What are the odds," Margaret murmurs, watching Luna with wonder, "that of all the places in this vast city, she would appear at your doorstep? That of all the people who might have passed that alley, you would be the one to hear her cry?" As if in answer, Luna approaches Daniel, pressing her forehead against his hand with deliberate tenderness. A gesture that once seemed merely affectionate now resonates with profound intention. Had she been searching for someone new to save, someone whose life required her mysterious intervention just as Robert's had? The question that forms in Daniel's mind chills him to the core. Was it truly he who rescued Luna that storm-lashed night? Or had she, somehow, impossibly been sent to rescue him from a loneliness he hadn't recognized was slowly consuming him? In the space between heartbeats, as human eyes meet feline across an ocean of impossibility, one truth emerges with crystal clarity. Some connections transcend explanation, existing in that sacred space where coincidence becomes too perfect to be anything but fate. In the stillness that follows revelation, three hearts beat in different rhythms, yet somehow in perfect harmony, each aware that the moment has arrived when paths must be chosen, when love must find its truest expression. Margaret's hands, weathered by decades of life's joys and sorrows, tremble slightly as she speaks words that cut through the room's hushed atmosphere. "I found what I came looking for," she says, her voice wavering like candlelight in a gentle breeze. "Just knowing she's alive, that she found someone worthy of her extraordinary spirit, it brings me more peace than I can express." A tear traces the map of wrinkles on her cheek as she watches Luna with undisguised longing. "Of course I'd cherish seeing her again, having a piece of Robert's miracle back in my life. But," her eyes meet Daniel's with unexpected compassion, "I can see what you've built together. Some bonds shouldn't be broken, even for the sake of memory." Daniel's gaze travels to Luna, seeking answers in her inscrutable golden eyes. She lies curled in her favorite spot on the windowsill, the perch she claims each evening to watch the world beyond their shared sanctuary. Her tail wraps perfectly around her body, the picture of contentment and belonging. This is her home, her territory marked not with scent, but with countless moments of connection, of healing that flowed both ways across the bridge between human and feline souls. The weight of choice sits heavy on Daniel's shoulders. Does he honor the past or protect the present? Does Luna belong with the family who first loved her, or has fate deliberately placed her in his path for reasons that transcend ordinary understanding? As if sensing his turmoil, Luna rises from her perch and approaches, her steps deliberate and graceful. She pauses between Daniel and Margaret, looking from one to the other with an awareness that seems to grasp the full complexity of this human dilemma. In this moment of impossible choice, Daniel feels something shift within him, not the ache of potential loss, but the unexpected flowering of certainty. True love, he realizes with sudden clarity, is not possession, but liberation. It asks not, "What do I need?" but, "What is right for the one I love?" With a deep breath that seems to draw courage from the very air around them, Daniel makes his decision. The afternoon sun bathes Margaret's modest home in golden light as Daniel arrives with Luna cradled in his arms, a pilgrimage to honor the past while facing an uncertain future. Margaret's cottage, filled with photographs of a life richly lived alongside the firefighter who once called Luna his miracle, welcomes them with the scent of freshly brewed tea and memories preserved in every corner. As Daniel gently sets Luna down on the worn carpet, his heart races with anticipation and fear. Will this be the moment of final separation? Will Luna recognize her former home and reclaim her place in the life she once knew? The air itself seems to hold its breath as Luna takes her first tentative steps into this familiar yet foreign territory, Her whiskers twitch, sampling the invisible tapestry of scents that tell stories human senses can never perceive. Margaret kneels with outstretched hands, tears streaming unchecked down her weathered cheeks, her voice breaking as she whispers a name from years past, the name Robert had given her before Daniel ever uttered Luna. What follows confounds every expectation. Luna approaches Margaret not with the boundless enthusiasm of a long-lost companion reunited, but with measured, deliberate steps. There is recognition in her golden eyes, but also something more complex, an acknowledgement of threads that once bound them together, now transformed by time and circumstance into something different, yet no less sacred. With gentle dignity, Luna presses her forehead against Margaret's trembling hand, a gesture of blessing, of honoring what once was. Margaret's sob breaks the silence as she strokes the sleek black fur one last time, feeling in that touch both hello and goodbye intertwined. Then, with a grace that speaks volumes without words, Luna turns and returns to Daniel, not with the desperate need of dependency, but with the deliberate choice of a soul who knows exactly where she belongs in this moment of her extraordinary journey. As their eyes meet across the sun-dappled room, all three understand a profound truth. Some bonds transcend ownership, transcend time itself. Luna has not rejected her past. She has simply chosen her future, with a wisdom that leaves both humans humbled in its presence. Night descends like a gentle hand drawing a blanket across the world, stars puncturing the darkness with ancient light as Daniel sits beside his window, Luna curled contentedly in his lap. His fingers trace the soft fur behind her ears as his mind wanders through the labyrinth of events that have led to this moment. This perfect, impossible connection that has reshaped his very existence. 2 years ago, he was a man defined by absence, of purpose, of connection, of the vulnerable courage required to truly live rather than merely exist. Now, as Luna's purr vibrates against his palm, he marvels at how rescuing this extraordinary creature from the rain-slicked darkness had somehow rescued him in return. A simple act of compassion had rippled outward, transforming not just one life, but creating concentric circles of change that continue to expand in ways he never could have imagined. The soft knock at his door breaks his reverie. A delivery, unusual at this hour, of a cream-colored envelope bearing his name in elegant, slightly trembling handwriting. Luna watches with those knowing golden eyes as Daniel breaks the seal and unfolds the letter within, its official letterhead announcing the Greater City Animal Rescue Foundation. His breath catches as he reads the words. A substantial donation has been made in his name, enough to fund medical care for dozens of abandoned animals who might otherwise perish without intervention. But it's the handwritten note folded within that brings unexpected moisture to his eyes. Dear Daniel, Margaret's distinctive script flows across the page. What you gave me today was more precious than you know. Not just the sight of my old friend, but the knowledge that her extraordinary spirit continues to work miracles. You saved her, just as she once saved us. Now she has repaid the kindness by bringing healing to both our hearts. Some creatures come into our lives not by chance, but by divine appointment, teaching us that love given freely always returns in unexpected ways. With deepest gratitude for the man who recognized what I've always known, that sometimes angels have whiskers. As Daniel's tear falls upon the page, Luna rises and presses her forehead against his cheek, a gesture that feels, in this moment of perfect understanding, like the closing of a circle that neither beginning nor end, only the eternal revolution of compassion given and returned. What begins as ripples in a still pond eventually transforms the entire landscape. This truth reveals itself to Daniel on a crisp autumn morning as he walks through the doors of the city animal shelter for the first time as a volunteer. The cacophony of barks, meows, and rustling cages surrounds him not as noise, but as a chorus of possibilities, each sound representing a life waiting for its turning point, just as his once was. Luna's story, a tapestry woven with threads of seeming coincidence that, viewed from a distance, form a perfect pattern of purpose, has awakened something dormant within him. As he kneels beside a trembling dog with eyes that mirror the fear he once saw in Luna's, Daniel recognizes that the hand he extends represents more than just human kindness. It offers the same bridge across the chasm of loneliness that Luna once built for him on that rain-soaked night. Each Saturday becomes sacred, hours spent cleaning cages, filling food bowls, and simply sitting with creatures whose trust has been broken by human indifference or cruelty. His colleagues at work notice the transformation that continues to unfold within him. Not just the stories of rescue successes that he shares with unexpected passion, but the light that now illuminates him from within, a man who has discovered his place in the greater tapestry of compassion. In quiet evenings at home, as Luna watches him from her perch with those knowing golden eyes, Daniel confronts a humbling truth. The narrative he had constructed of a man who saved a dying cat was only half the story. In reaching into that darkness to rescue her, he had unknowingly extended a hand toward his own salvation. The empty spaces within him, the echoing rooms of his heart that he had carefully furnished with solitude, now overflow with purpose and connection. Margaret's words return to him often as he witnesses the transformative power of simply being present for another living being. Some creatures come into our lives not by chance, but by divine appointment. What once seemed like poetic sentiment now reveals itself as profound wisdom, for in the mysterious alchemy of rescue, it becomes impossible to distinguish rescuer from rescued. There is only the sacred circle of healing that flows endlessly between souls brave enough to reach across the darkness and declare, "You are not alone." Life moves in perfect circles for those with eyes to see its patterns, a truth that reveals itself to Daniel on a rain-drenched evening, eerily reminiscent of another storm-swept night that changed his world forever. As he completes his final tasks at the shelter, preparing to lock up after the other volunteers have departed, a sound reaches him from the darkened alley behind the building, faint yet unmistakable to ears now attuned to recognize a cry for help. The flashlight beam cuts through sheets of rain, illuminating a sight that stops Daniel's heart mid-beat. A tiny kitten, barely visible against the wet pavement, its matted fur plastered against a frame so fragile it seems more apparition than creature. Trembling, injured, abandoned, a mirror image of Luna from that fateful night, as if time itself has folded to create this moment of perfect symmetry. Unlike the man he was 2 years ago, Daniel doesn't hesitate, doesn't question, doesn't calculate the cost of involvement. With hands that now move with practiced gentleness, he scoops the shivering bundle against his chest, sheltering it from the storm's fury with his jacket, a gesture so familiar it feels like muscle memory, as if his body has been waiting to complete this circle. "It's okay," he whispers against damp fur. "I know exactly what to do." The drive home passes in a blur of windshield wipers and whispered reassurances to the tiny heartbeat cradled in warmth beside him. As his apartment door swings open, Daniel's eyes immediately seek Luna, her sleek form perched regally on the back of the couch, watching his entrance with those knowing golden eyes that seem to hold the wisdom of many lifetimes. For a breathless moment, uncertainty flickers. How will Luna react to this intrusion, this tiny usurper brought suddenly into her domain? As Daniel kneels, carefully revealing his rain-soaked charge, Luna approaches with deliberate steps that speak of purpose rather than territorial concern. The sound that fills the room then is her purr, deep, resonant, approving, as she gently touches her nose to the kitten's trembling form. Not the reaction of a pet, but of a guardian recognizing her legacy unfolding before her. In her golden gaze, Daniel reads a message more profound than words could capture. "This is why I found you. This is why we found each other." As three souls share the warmth of this sanctuary against the storm outside, the circle completes itself, not ending, but beginning anew. In the quiet sanctuary of an apartment once defined by emptiness, a tableau of perfect harmony unfolds before Daniel's eyes. Luna, the mysterious harbinger of miracles, curled protectively around a tiny kitten whose life hung by a thread just days before. The symmetry of their breathing, the contrast of Luna's sleek midnight fur against the kitten's still malnourished frame, tells a story too profound for words, a story of cycles completed and begun anew, of darkness giving way to dawn in an endless rhythm of redemption. As moonlight spills across the living room floor, Daniel watches their slumber with a heart full of wonder. How strange the tapestry of fate, that a man who once navigated life with careful isolation should now find himself at the center of this expanding circle of compassion. The truth whispers to him from the shadows. Sometimes the ones we save are the ones who end up saving us. Luna's journey, from Margaret's miracle to dying stray to Daniel's companion to mentor for this new soul, suddenly reveals itself not as random chance, but as deliberate purpose. Each step, each turn, each seeming coincidence guided by an invisible hand weaving lives together in patterns too perfect to be accident. In Luna's golden eyes, now opening briefly to meet his gaze across the room with ancient knowing, Daniel sees reflected the greatest lesson she has taught him: that the walls we build to protect ourselves from pain also shield us from love's transformative power, that in reaching into darkness to save another, we often find our own salvation. That second chances are not merely gifts given, but covenants made between souls brave enough to begin again. As the kitten stirs, tiny paws kneading against Luna's protective embrace, Daniel smiles at the perfect symmetry of life's circles. This moment is not an ending, but a doorway. The first page of another story, another heart awakening to its purpose, another chance to continue the sacred cycle of compassion, given and returned. For in a world often shadowed by indifference, the light of one small kindness can illuminate paths we never knew existed, paths that lead us home to ourselves.